Hello, hello, and welcome back to another great episode. I'm, of course, JT, and today I'm delighted to have on the show Chris Swenor. Chris is the CEO of Reach, and let me just turn down this music a little bit. And Reach is a blockchain development platform helping developers easily build blockchain applications in a fast and secure way. Chris and the entire Reach team have been hard at work building a few exciting projects, so it's a pleasure to speak with Chris today. So without further ado, Chris, welcome on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming. Glad to finally be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. And for anyone that's just tuning in, if you have any questions, just leave them in the chat box. I will be paying attention to that, and we will get to those towards the end of the video. So without further ado, for anyone that doesn't know you, Chris, how about you just take a second to introduce yourself, introduce your company Reach and your role there.
For sure. So my name's Chris. I'm the CEO of Reach. I started off actually as an engineer, and I answer a lot of engineering and tech questions in Twitter Spaces and when people tweet at me or whatever. I'm actually not an engineer at all anymore. If Jay knew that I was actually digging in the code, he'd slap my hands. But I've started as an engineer 22 years ago now. Wow, I'm getting old. But about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I kind of switched over to the product and entrepreneurship side of things. I part of executive teams, been part of a couple of successful exits. Started my own companies about, I think in 2015 is when I started actually creating my own companies. Jumped into blockchain full time in early 2017. And we started Reach in September of 2019. So I've been on a very long journey personally. And I always have the mindset of always help. So you'll always see me in Twitter Spaces or on Twitter or in Discord channels, answer many questions I possibly can. Tell you a little bit about what Reach does. So Reach was my answer to the biggest pain of all. So you cut me, I bleed blockchain. And so jumped in, like I said, full time in blockchain in 2017. What I was doing back then, though, was I was building a scaling solution because obviously scaling was a big problem. Yeah. And so I jumped in, wanted to build a company to fix that. We built out a prototype. We raised some money. We ended up not like building a prototype that worked. For a prototype, I started actually talking to developers, found out there were only about around 2,000 developers in the entire world building blockchain applications. And wow, that blew my mind. And I knew that was the problem that really truly needed to be solved, because even if I sold the scaling solution to every single one of them, I didn't know exactly how to keep the lights on. So this is actually when I started asking the question of, well, what is the actual real big problem? And that was bringing developers into the space. Started talking to them, found out what the reasons were that they weren't coming in. And three major reasons came up. Number one, blockchain development itself is too difficult. With Solidity and any other smart contract language like Teal, what you're doing is you're spending a lot of time writing at a very low level, and you're building state machines. Traditional developers don't have to do this when they're building full stack applications or pretty much any application. So they're not used to doing that. So it's a different kind of paradigm switch. Plus, on top of it all, you're building a decentralized solution as well. So it's way different. So we knew that we needed to make blockchain development easier. The second thing is that we kept hearing that they were worried about how unsafe it was. If you make one mistake, if you miss, you didn't put the correct verification in one area, you can leave a big old gaping hole in your contract, and all of the money can be siphoned out. So developers write bugs. Even in simple applications, it's really easy to write bugs. But if you're looking at applications that are much more difficult to actually write, there's a much even higher chance of writing bugs. And if you do write a bug, you lose everybody's money. So we knew that was another big thing that needed to be fixed. And then the final thing is that most blockchains, or other than the EVM, are proprietary solutions. And the problem there is, like, if a developer decides to learn how to write on Ethereum or Algorand or what have you, they're kind of learning how to do that one chain. What happens if they wanted to build something on another chain? Or what if they want to get help from somebody or when they hire somebody? It's really difficult to find somebody that wants to do your specific language. And we knew that was another problem. So all three of these problems need to be fixed, but they didn't need to be fixed in a little bit of way. We didn't need to make it a little bit better because we didn't think that was good enough, because we wanted to change the world. We want to bring all 20 million developers into the blockchain space. And so we created Reach. Jay, my co-founder, who, if you ever had a chance to actually listen to him talk, he's a brilliant guy. Don't let him know I said that. But very, very smart guy. And he's a world-renowned computer science researcher, has been researching computer science topics like programming languages, compilers, formal verification over the last 20 years. And it was almost like a serendipitous thing is that he's been researching the tools to make blockchain development infinitely better before blockchain even existed. And this so happened that blockchain came about and he could use all of these research techniques to be able to build Reach. And what Reach is number one, it's a higher level language, so it's much easier to write and understand what you're writing. Number two, it's automatically formally verifies or creates formal proofs or mathematically guarantees what you wrote is correct, or what you allows you to assert what you think is the code will do, and it guarantees that to be true. And we abstracted away the protocol itself or the blockchain, so you can change where you want to launch based on configuration change. So a funny story there is that when we first started building, we're like, oh, people are going to want to launch on multiple chains. That's currently just not the case. Developers, they know where they want to launch it, and that's where they're going to go. But what we did find, and this is actually one of the things I'm most proud of, is that because we've abstracted the chain away, even though developers want to build on one chain, they can now receive help from anybody, no matter what chain they're building on. So the great part about this is that we've kind of removed the toxicity of blockchain development, because there's no longer the tribalism of shaking your stick. I picked this chain is the best. You're an idiot for picking something else. It's, I have a problem. Can you fix it? And the answer is right away. Of course I can, because you wrote it in Reach.
Well, to be fair, that tribalism definitely still exists.
It doesn't exist in the Reach Discord channels, and that's what I care about.
Perfect. So how many different blockchains can Reach build on?
So currently we can build on the EVM chain, so Ethereum and all of the EVM like chains. We can build on Algorand, obviously, as you know, and we can build on Conflux, and the next chain that we've received a grant to connect to is Cosmos. So all four of those, yeah. And then, but eventually the whole idea is that you'll be able to compile to any of them. So, that's part of our whole world domination thing.
Of course. Yeah, and I know most of us do believe, even though a lot of us like Algorand, that it will be a multi-chain future. I mean, I do have a hunch that it won't be as vastly multi-chained as it is now. I think in the long run, just like we have in tech companies, there'll be a couple monopolies that win out in the long run, maybe 3, 4, or 5, and then a bunch of niche ones around the edges. But that said, I don't think it's going to be a winner-take-all ecosystem for sure. So, applications like Reach will be certainly necessary in the future, as, all these application builders want to, build on different chains, or they're already started on a chain, but they want to go over, say they're on Ethereum, but they want to go over to Algorand. And as you said, they don't know how to write in Teal. It's too difficult. So now with, things like Reach, it makes it much simpler for them to just port over their application onto the Algorand blockchain.
It's funny that you go directly to that point, though. We found like that point is actually the least valuable point of what Reach does. And being able to be blockchain agnostic. It's hard to understate how much easier blockchain development than when you use Reach. Like, for example, we're launching Humble, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the pool code, like a very intricate part of the application, is around, I think, between 250 and 300 lines of code. You compare that to writing it in Teal, you're looking at thousands of lines of code to write the same amount of code, or even on Solidity, the same amount. So you're looking at a 90% decrease in the number of lines of code that you have to write to get the same job done. That's mind-blowing when you think about it, as far as just developers and how much easier it is. And then like the second thing, which I would argue is even more important, is the safety aspect. I mean, you see issues all the time of, X amount of millions of dollars lost because of a hole in the code. Being able to formally verify, mathematically guarantee that your code is going to do exactly as you expect is so much more important than getting the code out because I believe that community and community's funds is the utmost important thing. And if you're coding without reach, it's like you're driving around without a seatbelt. But it's like you're driving around without a seatbelt, and the life of every person on the road is actually at danger because you're not wearing the seatbelt.
Yeah, so it's high stakes for sure.
It's extremely high stakes. So safety to me is the thing that's, Austin from XBacked and the guys over at Tiny Chart, they scream about how important it is to use reach purely because of the safety aspect.
Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, I wanted to ask what other projects in the Algorand or the blockchain ecosystem are currently using reach. I'm sure there are some that you can't mention, but I mean, if you'd like to, feel free. But if you can mention any that are in the public domain currently.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what I'm not supposed to answer and what I'm not, but that's usually what I'm actually known for. I say things that are true. So XBacked. Great project. There's a decentralized stablecoin. And by the way, I'm not going to be able to name them all because there's actually quite a few. I mean, I just looked this morning. We're at 4,200 developers that have built something on Reach, which is nuts.
That's more developers than you were saying existed in the space in 2017.
Exactly. And we've only been around for 1 year. That's awesome. This should scream about what I'm saying is not BS. The developers themselves, and that's the other thing too, is we don't spend much money on marketing at all. This is purely from word of mouth. But anyway, I digress. So XBacked, Tiny Chart, Dequency, Zone, Algo Mint V2.
There's a V2 coming.
There is. Is that alpha? Whoops.
It might be.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm sure I'm forgetting quite a few, but Polonize, which is another Australian company. But there's a lot. There's a lot of companies that are actually building on Reach. So come and say hi in the Discord if you're listening. You can see a lot of the people building on it.
Well, that's a perfect segue into HumbleSwap. So what is HumbleSwap? I know it's a DEX or AMM, for however you want to consider it, for the Algorand blockchain using Reach. But what will set HumbleSwap apart from other DEXs?
So let me actually talk about really what our dream for Humble is. And then I'll talk about HumbleSwap, because HumbleSwap is just the first product of Humble. And Humble's goal, and the reason why we named it Humble, is that we found that DeFi is too exclusive. It requires you to be part of this elite club of us crypto nerds, and it doesn't feel like it's really scratching the itch of bringing the banking to the bankless. You know what I mean? It's my grandma, my aunts, my uncles. They don't have they don't use DeFi, and it's not because it's complicated. Because if you look at the swaps out there, it's two text boxes and a button. I mean, you can put numbers in there and things will pop out, right? But the problem is that it's scary and it's the unknown. So we wanted to build a DeFi suite. So starting with a decentralized exchange because we needed a strong foundation, but a DeFi suite that is approachable by everybody, not just us nerds. And when I say everybody too, we're starting on Algorand, but because of Reach, we're going to be launching on many different chains with the eventual plan of complete cross-chain swaps as well. But like I said, we're starting on Algorand because this is where there was definitely a demand, and we're launching there.
Yeah, I was going to ask, since Reach is blockchain agnostic, my question next was going to be, why did Humble choose to launch their first product on Algorand? Well,
obviously, there's tons of potential with Algorand when it comes to the throughput. I mean, the transactions per second is extremely high. The environmental hit is great. The or the lack of environmental hit is great, I should say. Uh, the instant finality, all of these things are a very important thing for successful DeFi. And there's another thing too that's like what I want to really kind of drive home is that I'm not trying to build the largest or best DeFi suite on Algorand. I think that it is important. I want to build the best DeFi suite in the world. I'm building this to compete against the Uniswaps. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take it even a step back further and really kind of. I'm not even trying to compete with Uniswap. I'm trying to compete with Goldman Sachs, and I'm trying to compete with the New York stock market. I believe that DeFi on Algorand and with Humble, we can actually compete with true financial markets. Obviously, it's not going to be right away, but those are what our goals are. And I talked a lot about what our interface is going to be like to bring all of the retail users in. But to be able to achieve true financial freedom and to be able to build this, you need to have those institutional partners as well. So we're building in automation tools and just very strong API and SDK suite that allows for these institutions to tie their big conglomerate systems into the same protocols that allows everybody to actually trade on. So Humble is, like I said, Humble is not very humble when it comes to actually what their actual goals are. But yeah, so that's kind of what the dream is for Humble.
I mean, you have to shoot for the sky. Absolutely. I've heard you mention before that, in 2022, the goal for HumbleSwap is to get to a $2 billion TVL because you wish to see HumbleSwap being the DEX of choice for institutions. And I thought that was a pretty great goal, just for this year alone. Of course, those are great goals you just mentioned for years to come. But, I'm certainly excited to see what HumbleSwap brings to the table later down the line. When does it launch? I heard you mention around Valentine's Day. Are you still shooting for around that date?
This is the problem when actually I leak alpha as much as I do. So that is our actual goal, Valentine's Day. I did find out, actually, was it Sunday morning, that our audit won't be done until the end of the month. So we'll be done with the code by Valentine's Day, but we're not going to actually launch until we get the final report of the audit, so we're going to be waiting on that, sadly. But development's going really well. Our team is, I would say our team is the best team in crypto. I'm probably a little bit biased, but they're crushing the code. The contracts are looking good. Very happy with everything.
Awesome. Now, is Humble going to launch with its own token at the same time?
No. So the thing with regulations is that you have to have a token that has utility before you can launch it. So Humble is a DAO. It is a governance. The Humble is the DEX of the people. So obviously, if you're going to be the DEX of the people, if you're going to be the DeFi suite of the people, you need to be governed by the people. So our plan is to, shortly after launching the swap, is to then launch the DAO system. And once the DAO is released, that's when the token will be released.
And how would the DAO governance work? Would users be able to propose various things to vote on, or it would be kind of more of a top-down thing as we have currently with the Algorand Foundation, where they kind of just give us questions and then we vote on?
It's a true DAO. It's the people will get to vote. Not only will they get to actually propose things, they're going to be able to propose which features to add. They're going to be able to propose which additions to the DeFi suite they want. Maybe they want full-blown lending. If they propose it, it'll be built. They will have access to the entire treasury and how to spend it. So this is once again, we are building the DeFi suite for the people.
That's super exciting. Honestly, I really can't wait to use it. I mean, I've used it a little bit in testnet. It's super simple, super intuitive, as you said. But yeah, it really is exciting because Algorand could use a couple more dApps to really boost up its TVL. That being said,
so one thing to talk about as well. Go back to what we were talking about earlier of why will the institutions choose us? So not only are we going to be releasing these strong APIs and the SDKs, but that safety aspect, these institutions are used to formal verification, code that is mathematically proven to be correct. And if you're not providing that, they're not going to put the money there. They don't want to lose $2 billion. I mean, I know I wouldn't.
There's a reason why I believe there's now 2 S&P stock indices that are currently on the Algorand blockchain, and you don't really see that happening anywhere else. And I personally have a belief. I mean, I've looked into it, and those indices are only available to accredited investors, so it's not a big deal for people like you or I. But I have a personal belief that if they see that goes well over the next 6, 12, or 18 months, because everything moves slow in traditional finance world, a lot more will start to move on as they see, oh, that was really safe, that worked really well. It can solve the T+2 problem with the equities market. So, I
do want to actually clarify something though. Yes, Algorand is a secure blockchain, but you can build insecure applications on top of a secure blockchain. We've seen that already. What Reach does is makes it so that the applications themselves are more safe.
Yeah, no, that's, like you said, that's absolutely crucial. I mean, as a lot of us have seen with TinyMan, I mean, if even the one slightest bug could cost people, millions of dollars. So it's certainly quite important to, build on Reach or build through Reach for sure. So you've mentioned that HumbleSwap will eventually have limit orders. How soon after the launch? How soon after the launch will that be implemented?
So obviously it's going to be up to audits, because audits really do declare when things are launched. But the limit orders were going to be part of day one launch, but we decided to accelerate our initial to production to help have more than one Dex on the Algorand blockchain. So my goal is within 2 to 3 months to not only have the limit orders as available, which I think a lot of people care about, but also open liquidity mining. So what I mean by that is that all of the ASA owners out there that want to provide extra extra incentive to provide liquidity, they'll be able to do it on our system, and they don't have to ask our permission. Like, that's the key. Like, I don't want them to come knock on my door and say, Chris, can I please offer incentives to my user? We're building a decentralized protocol that will allow for people that they want to create their token, and it's within regulation, of course, or whatever they want to do, and they want to incentivize people to provide liquidity. They can just use our system and launch with it. So both of those features we plan on having within 2 to 3 months after we actually go live.
That's really great to hear, because incentives to provide liquidity are absolutely important. Obviously, without liquidity, there are no trades. I know currently right now Yieldly offers some liquidity provider staking, but they're also the gatekeeper of their platform. So they get to choose who can come on and provide those incentives to their community. So that's really cool to hear that it'll be actually permissionless. You can.
If you ask Lee from Opulus, he would say that's a problem.
Yeah, I would agree with him. Honestly, that is a problem. That being said, I did pull something off of your Twitter that I'd like to just have you dive a little bit deeper on real quick. Let's see if I can put it up right here. So you wrote, "Hey, all you yeah, it said, hey, all you builders out there on Algorand. I've been working with the foundation and Gitcoin to allow Algorand projects to set up grant pages so the Algo fam can help you build. So set up an account, set up a grant page, and then reply to this tweet." Could you explain the significance of this?
This is huge. And it blew my mind that the Algo fam didn't make bigger news about it. So Gitcoin is a protocol on the Ethereum network that focuses on allowing for anybody to provide grants or money donations to projects. And I believe they've had something like over $9 million of grant funds flown through the actual Gitcoin platform, but it's always been Ethereum based. So I've been working with the foundation, Joanna, who's amazing. I don't know if you know her. I shout her out actually quickly after this one, because I don't think a lot of people know her. But we've been working together with Gitcoin to integrate Algorand into the Gitcoin system. So now anybody on the Algorand network that creates a product, and doesn't have to be a protocol. This can be media people. This can be anybody that is doing something on Algorand. You can create a grant profile, and be able to actually to say what you're doing, what like outline it, even communicate with people that provide grants, and you can now grant money directly to Algo. You can grant Algo or Algo USDC or Algo USDT directly to that project, and to get them up and running. And here's another actually awesome, great thing that might be a little bit of alpha. It's probably a lot of alpha, but there's a thing called quadratic matching that Gitcoin does. So this allows for whales to come in and put money towards a matching pool. And then what happens is that every dollar that is invested or from the community or not invested, provided, is then matched in a quadratic way from a pool. And what that means is that the more people, the more individuals, more accounts that put money towards that project, the bigger the match is. You can get like 100x, 1,000x match if you get enough people putting dollars in, so that some person out there that only has one algo, they can put one algo in, and if 10,000 people say this is the project that we want to put money in, they will get a much larger match of that whale money than anybody else. So that's actually another really cool thing about this platform, is that it really allows for the community to be able to vote with their algo and actually have it be worth more than just one algo.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've not explored Gitcoin or GitHub too much. I'm not technical enough to sometimes understand all the stuff that they're posting on it. But that sounds really cool. It's basically like a very interesting way to crowdfund the most interesting projects to the community. So yeah, that's definitely really cool. For anyone that just saw that tweet or heard that explanation, definitely go check that out.
Or just heard me just say, go set up a profile right now, and then ping me. Say, hey, I set up this profile, and I'll tell the world. I'll say, hey, JT Invest in You has a grant. You should have a grant profile page up there to say, I want to do this full time. Please provide grant money so I can provide media for the Algorand community. And you yourself could actually have people send you grant money to make you do this more often.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. I might you might have convinced me to look into that for sure.
I mean, I tell you what, JT, if you set up one, I will send you some algo.
Awesome. I'm going to hold you to it.
You should.
Awesome. Well, that being said, how about we just quickly touch on, before we get to some of these questions that are piling up in the chat, what Game Jam protocol is. I know you've mentioned it before. It's kind of like a little side project, but it has a really interesting take on the gaming ecosystem. Oh, it's not. Okay. I hear
a really big deal.
I hear other things mentioned more. Maybe that's partially why, or maybe it's my own bias and where my attention goes. But yeah, if you could extrapolate on what Game Jam protocol is.
The only reason we're not making a lot more noise, and actually why our investors aren't making a lot more noise, is because we're in the process right now of going through a complete new rebranding, and because we don't want the Game Jam name anymore. But what Game Jam is an entire gaming ecosystem that is designed to take out the Steams of the world. Now, how it does this is through interoperable assets, meaning that if you buy a loot box, right, buy an asset, you have the ability to use that asset in one game and then bring it to a completely different game on the inside the ecosystem and be able to have a completely different experience on that new game. And we built entire economic models. Or new economic models to be able to lend and borrow in a pool type system. There's a play to earn process to it. We're going to implement guild systems, and there's many other things. We've already raised money on this. From many of the great investors. We brought in a bunch of people from Blizzard to run the project. This week alone we signed two games to the actual system. One of them the developers actually worked on Forza, so it's a racing game. Another one is actually a full-blown AAA title that will be implementing the system. I mean, this is a really big deal. It's definitely not a side project.
Yeah, I take back those comments. Yeah, Forza is a huge game. I'm not too big into gaming now, but when I was a teenager, that was one of the best games that I played. I loved racing games personally. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
actually
I
that's
mean, we plan on launching with at least 10 games within near development. And it like, knock on wood, hopefully around 100 games actually signed on to build into the system eventually.
And when do you plan on launching that?
This one, once again, is not a side project. So we're in the process right now of building it and don't really have a full launch date yet. We're looking at Q3 or maybe Q4 of this year.
Perfect. Well, I'll keep my eyes out for that, and I will make sure to cover it not as a side project in the future.
I mean, it's like we've got videos. Like we're actually working with one of the most well-known design and branding companies to actually build out a full new brand and just persona. It's like I said, it's when you won't need to kind of look under rocks to hear about it. We're gonna make a lot of noise.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait for that splash to be made. So let's move on to some of these audience questions that I have pinned over here. The first one.
I hope they bring the heat.
Yep, this one's a heater right here. So John Mazzoni is asking, what kind of beard oil do you use?
It's all natural. Just nice wash. Like I decided before I came on this one, I decided I'm going to give it a nice wash and condition. So, but no oils at all. What do you think, John?
Well, he already answered that. He said Chris is looking like $1 million. So perfect.
Well, thank you, John.
And we touched on this question a little bit, but Jack Sparrow's asking, Chris, can you develop with Reach to build on any chain?
Today, not any chain, but our eventual goal is any chain. Today, just once again, we have all the EVM chains, Algorand, Conflux, and soon Cosmos. But eventually, the goal is to actually any chain. We plan on being blockchain. And what I mean by that is that any developer that wants to build on blockchain, they'll just come to Reach and be able to launch it. And what I like to say, in 5 years, if you ask anybody on the street to describe what blockchain is, they will describe Reach, because Reach will be the lens that the world views blockchain.
Perfect. Now we have Fenner. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. They ask, how can we bring developers from Ethereum to Algorand?
I'm going to answer the question, but then I'm going to add on to it. So actually, first I'm not going to answer the question, then I'll answer it in a second. We don't need to. The reason why I say this is right now, the number of developers that are building on Ethereum is measured in the thousands. The number of developers in the world is measured in the tens of millions. It is much more efficient to attract new developers into the space than to try to convince developers from Ethereum to come over to Algorand. That being said, we are also attracting developers from Ethereum to come to Algorand. And the funny thing is the reason why So the reason why Ethereum developers are interested in writing to Reach is because of the safety. There's way more tools, way more infrastructure on Ethereum space, but even then, those developers are finding that the safety is not quite enough. And what Reach provides is this is not one of the best ways to actually build on Algorand. This is one of the best ways to build in general, and one of the safest ways that they are looking at using Reach to build much more secure applications. And then at that point, the main question is like, well, since you already wrote and built on Reach, now just convincing them to switch blockchain is as easy as telling them about the features of the different blockchain.
That makes complete sense, and it's a really interesting point you made about going after the developers in the broader community as opposed to the targeting Ethereum developers. Not to get too political, but I've experienced something almost exactly similar. I've volunteered on 2 different political campaigns before, and I won't mention which ones, but the goal essentially was to target non-voters as opposed to going after voters that had already picked a camp. Instead of already going after the ones that are already over here and already over there, there was a much larger number of non-voters. Just as in this scenario, there's a much larger number of broader developers in the ecosystem that you could target and have a much larger addressable market there.
Exactly.
So,
because think about it. With Reach, you can a brand new developer has never built anything. You can come in and learn Reach between 2 to 4 weeks, or you could spend a year learning how to build something with Solidity. To me, as a developer, even if we're not the right way, it's much easier to waste 2 to 4 weeks than it is to waste an entire year of learning the wrong way.
That's an absolutely great point. Let's see. We have Jack Sparrow again asking, why do you think Algorand had so low attraction on dApp development? Is it because of their language?
So I would push back on that. I don't believe that there is actually a so low attraction. I mean, I know dozens of actually legit projects being built on Algorand right now. Yes, a large majority of the ones I know are being written with Reach, but there are several happening. We are very early in the blockchain space, and we just need to be patient. So I would say that they, you know, yes, it's difficult to write in TL, but it's also very difficult to write in Solidity. They've been around longer, so that's why.
Yeah, it makes sense. And of course, there's a lot of these, Ethereum compatible chains in which the developers were just able to basically copy and paste their application over to these EVM compatible chains. So I'm sure that slowed it down a little bit. But yeah, I would agree too. I've talked to many CEOs and founders and developers over the course of my journey with this channel, and there's a lot coming. So I would also push back on that a little bit. What do we have here? We have Doughboy asking, can you please ask Chris about how Algorand developers solve the EVM combativity constraint? I'm not sure what he means by that. And what does he think of Algorand? And what does he think of Algorand's future?
I don't think you need to actually combat the compatibility constraints because there's only a handful of dApps on Ethereum. Like spending time and effort trying to build a EVM compliant compatible thing on Algorand just to try to convince some of the Ethereum developers to come over is silly. Like once again, tens of millions of developers have never touched blockchain. They don't even know what EVM is. So why spend all of its time doing that when it's so much easier to just train a new developer to build with the tools and launch an Algorand? And what do I think about the Algorand's future? Obviously, I think it's amazing. Or else I wouldn't be launching Humble and Game Jam and the Monarch protocol on top of Algorand.
Oh, we didn't even touch on the Monarch protocol. Hands up. Steve is asking, can you launch your own node with the HumbleSwap?
Use your own node. Yes, you'll be able to point your interface to your own node, your own indexer, and be able to trade. If that feature is not in testnet, it will be on before we hit production.
Perfect. And another sort of EVM sort
I'm
of
going to I think only Steve might actually know what I just said. So I'm going to explain a little bit more of what I just said. So right now, when you do a lot of things on the Algorand blockchain, most of it flows through to one endpoint or one node, this is actually a Rand Labs or Algo Explorer's node. And the problem with that is that if everything on Algorand is sent to one spot, if that goes down or that gets congested, it really brings down the use of Algorand. But if the interfaces themselves give you the opportunity to point to your own node, you can, number one, you can actually optimize and build the best indexer you want to have a better experience there. And two, if Algo Explorer goes down, you'll still be able to trade and do everything fine.
Yeah, I know many in the NFT portion of the Algorand community were suffering from the issues of overload with the Algo Explorer API. So that's certainly good to hear for sure. And
to be very clear as well, we work very closely with the Rand Labs team, and they fixed a lot of things and made their endpoint much more efficient. So that should be even better. But in the end, it is important that there is more than one node that everybody uses. But Rand Labs team is amazing.
Yeah, and their products are absolutely great, especially, they're free to use, which is, I know there are paid versions of it as well, but, it's a great service that they're offering to the Algorand community. But as you said, there certainly needs to be more than just one central point for sure. All right, where did we leave off? Let's see. I believe this was the one. Nope, sorry. Here it is. On to the next question. How can we speed up, or how can Algorand speed up the TVL and increase or catch up to the EVM chains like Avalanche?
Why? This is like this is a funny question I hear a lot. It's like, oh, we need more TVL. We need more TVL. No, we don't. We don't need more TVL today. If you look at the Algo Explorer, and we are far from filling up our blocks currently. I mean, we have over 1,000 TPS that we can work with right now, and what are hidden like 100, 200? I haven't looked at lately, but we're far from actually hitting that. That being said, I believe that the roadmap for Algorand by the end of this year or soon is 40,000 anyway. So Algorand knows that. Oh wait! I'm never. So I was thinking of TPS, transaction percent. He's saying TVL, so total value locked. So total value locked is the amount of liquidity that's locked into contracts. And this is actually now a great question. So sorry for poking at you, Fenner. So the way that to do this is through proper incentivizations. This is actually through pairing up with actually the foundation to provide extra incentives for people to lock in this one, but it's also providing those tools for those institutional players to come in, because the true money comes from the institutional players. If they believe that they can make money there, they will put money there. So the other thing too with like Avalanche and Solana, how they got their money up, is that they spent a lot of time bringing in big investors to just promise to dump the TVL in. I believe if you actually look at it, it's not true TVL, but don't you worry. By the end of this year, Algorand will be at or better than the TVL of these other chains.
Yeah, I completely agree with that last point you made, that it is soon enough it's going to take off like a rocket, and we're all going to be looking back like thinking that we were silly to have these when are we gonna have higher TVL conversations.
Right. I mean, it's when people can make money is when it's going to get there, and like when hedge funds, because that's another thing too that probably a little bit of alpha with Humble. We're going to implement variable fees, so that if you do a $5 million trade, it's not the same fee of doing $100 trade. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that these large hedge funds have the ability to come and make huge trades and be able to truly use the product. And they're not used to paying these type of fees when they're doing trades that large. But this is all things that we're trying to figure out still, and make sure that we prepare for these large institutions so they can come in.
Makes complete sense to me. And let's see, here's another. Oh, actually, I had a question up and we didn't even read it. I can't read that name, but can we invest in Reach directly or indirectly? I don't know if they mean through like private equity, but you guys are building a lot very fast, and would like to get on the ground level.
I think maybe not a lot of people know this, but Reach has already raised $13.4 million. We're going to be doing probably another raise by the end of this year. I mean, when I say that our goal is to actually take over the world as far as actually becoming the blockchain, I'm not saying like, being facetious about this. Like our goal is to be a very large company that truly is the main, the central station for all of blockchain development. So yes, people can invest in Reach. We don't have a token because we are centralized, and I don't believe in forcing tokens into where they don't belong. That being said, we do have a large community, and we did launch the Reach Thank You token, the Reach TYT. And what you can do with that is that for community members that go above and beyond, like JT talking to me today, I'm going to send you some Reach Thank You token. And what that can be done is that we're going to be launching NFT sets that are actually really well done, that you'll be able to turn your thank you tokens into NFTs or swag or many other things. Because one of the things that I always say is that without our community, we don't exist. So we want to make sure that we thank you. I mean, you guys are the reason why we exist. So thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, the community is really one of the most important aspects to almost anything in this space, whether it be for the chains or specific dApps or projects or NFT communities. It really is the community that makes it that much more special. Let's see. We have Upstate New York Tesla. Okay, asking, can we as users add liquidity in the pools like you can on Tiny Man?
Of course.
Of course, perfect. And we have Reworks over here with an NFT question real quick. Can we talk about the NFTs that will be used across all of our favorite games?
I think maybe JT, we should probably do a full thing purely about Game Jam, because it is very complex. Like I said, we put a lot of effort into the entire ecosystem, and being able to take your assets and be able to actually bring them from game to game to game, and the revenue that is generated from the assets goes back into investing in more games being built on the platform is actually pretty exciting. So Reworks, I would love to talk to you for forever about this, and I will, given time. But I think we're probably running out of time, and I don't have enough time to really dig down deep, because we've done things like created a new economic model that I call liquidity for liquid assets, that allow you to place your NFT into a pool and allow other players to mint tier 2 assets of it, so that you can have a almost infinite number of players playing these games without affecting the scarcity of the actual primary NFT. So like I said, it is a very complex system that I would love to actually dig in deep in, but it probably deserves an entire own talk.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on. We could have a talk just for Game Jam. So there's just one last question, and then we can get on to our merry way. Let's see. Do you guys think that perhaps Algorand is too focused on institutional adoption at the expense of actual crypto native communities? And I'll just take a swing at that first, and then I'll let you, give your answer. And I suppose I would say no, partially because, as you had alluded to before, 70% or so, I think, is the metric of the trading that's done by institutional investors versus retail. So, I mean, fostering a good retail community is, of course, great, but the real money is coming from the institutions. So, you can have the best retail community ever, but it's only going to get you so far. So the institutional adoption is an equally important, if not, I don't want to say more, but it's definitely an equally important piece to the puzzle.
I'm gonna say something very direct. So, crypto today, and I'm not talking about Algorand. I'm talking about all of crypto. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Algorand, Cardano, all of these is still a toy when you look at it at the size of the entire world. The amount of value that is in crypto today is not even a drop in the bucket. So what the goal to actually if we're doing this to do more than just try to get rich overnight, if we're trying to change the world, you need to get that big money into the space. So that is the right place to actually go if we're playing the long game. If you're playing the short game, sure, hype up what your chain will do eventually and rattle the chain and create a cult and do what you do. But if we're building true, actually world-changing tech, it requires to actually play the long game, which requires bringing those institutional players in.
I couldn't agree with you more there, Chris. Well, that just about wraps up the questions I'm seeing in the chat. Is there anything that hasn't been brought up tonight that you'd like to touch on before we close up?
I would say that I said it already, but I'm going to actually just I'm going to really drive home. My goal is to be the most approachable CEO. And the reason for it is because I believe that the whole idea with blockchain and cryptocurrency and just the decentralized nature of everything is that it's all about the community. It's all about the us. So if there's anything that anybody can do needs a question answered by me, feel free to come and chat. I'm in Twitter Spaces all the time. Follow me on Twitter. Shoot me some messages. I'll see if I can find the time to help you out. And I'm going to challenge all of you listening as well. Do the same for everybody else, because we're not going to make a difference unless we all try to get this to work. So tell your friends, tell your family members not to invest in crypto, but preach to them why crypto is important. Tell them why they should care. And if you need my advice on how to do that, I'll be happy to actually explain it as well.
You heard that. His DMs are open, so anyone that needs help talking to their family about cryptocurrency, just hit up Chris. Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure having you on the channel. Just let my audience know where they can reach out to you or Reach or HumbleSwap if they have any other questions.
So you can find me on Twitter, so at Chris Swenor. You can follow Reach and HumbleSwap, so at HumbleSwap and at Reach Lang. Our Discord is completely open for developers. You can go to docs.reach.sh if you want to learn development. If you don't have to be a pro developer to learn how to build applications. So come and join us there. But yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. So join me on Twitter Spaces. Yell at me, ask me hard questions. I'm never scared to actually answer the hard questions. So please come at me.
Yeah, and I'll have links down in the description below, so it'll be easy for anyone that's watching this video now. Just click on those links. But yeah, it seems like you get kicked out of Twitter Spaces quite often, though. Just to touch on that real quick.
It's because Jack hates me. I think that's what it is. Is that
well, he's not even the CEO anymore? So what is it? Parag hates you now, I believe.
Parag hates me. Somebody does. Somebody I get kicked out of Twitter Spaces all the time.
Yeah.
I always come back. You can't keep me out.
Yeah, he stepped down to focus more on his blockchain related companies. Actually, I forget the names of them. To be honest, I can't keep up. But yeah, that being said, I really appreciate having you on the show. It's been great. Thank you for answering all my questions, and thank you for answering all of the questions from my audience members. I'm sure they appreciate that. And we'll have to do this again sometime and talk about Game Jam.
Yeah, thank you, JT. I apologize for not doing this sooner. You did a great job, and I can't wait to join you again.
No, it's totally okay. We're all very busy people in this life. Got a lot going on. So, good luck on the launch of HumbleSwap coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. I thank you for sticking to the end of this video. If you liked the content, just smash that thumbs up button and consider subscribing to the channel. And that being said, have a good rest of your night.